pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have a moment of silence, and I prepare to say for someone we lost not too long ago. Almighty God, we remember before you today your faithful servant, Linda Call. And we pray that, having opened to her the gates of larger life, you will receive her more and more into your joyful service, that she may win with you and all your servants everywhere the eternal victory through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Amen. Okay, we'll jump out of the sequence of the agenda here, and I assume most everybody in here is the future of town-wide water district. Who wants to jump in?
I'll jump in. Never shy away from talking about it. Okay, I gave the board a few things for their digestion tonight. So I'm going to go over a bunch of information. So some of the information's related to Bethany, some of the information's related to Genesee County Water Supply Project, scheduling and where potential funding can come from. But we also did put together some very preliminary cost options for you guys to look at, and then ultimately at some point the town board will have to make some determinations as to the next step. So one of the questions we've seen lately is, why really hasn't there been a lot of public involvement? How does this district get formed already? I just want to set the record straight. There's no district right now, okay? So the town board has not made any formal determination on forming a district. So this right now is in the very preliminary phases where we're kind of studying the options, looking at rough costs, rough financial situations, giving that to the board for them to hopefully make a decision based on some of your input as to kind of do we go to the next step. So at no point a district has not been formed. Again, we're in the very early stages. For a district to be formed, it requires your feedback and input, okay? And I'll kind of go over what that process is a little later on, but again, very early stages. Anything we give you tonight is our rough estimates, subject to change based on as we fine tune things. So I know one of the big controversial things was related to Bethany Water 5 and the impact to Fargo, Sweetland, and Clapsaddle. So ultimately, Town of Bethany back in 2017 started looking at a brand new water district to serve essentially the majority of Bethany down to Route 20. At the time, that required supply from the Monroe County Water Authority. And to get that supply, it would have had to have come through the town of Stafford. Because of that, there was proposed improvements to the town of Stafford to get the water to Bethany. That included Sweetland, that included Fargo, that included Clapsaddle. Okay? When COVID hit, the town of Bethany asked us to do a timeout based on the fact that we had the original estimates for 2017. COVID hit, we did a timeout. They wanted to wait and see where the bid results came in for town of Stafford Water 12. Kind of see where that put them in a cost perspective. When those bids came out, it was apparent that we needed a lot more money to make that project happen. So we worked with Bethany on numerous things, including material differences and the supplier of water. So ultimately, in order to make that project affordable, the only real way to do it was to switch supply from Monroe County Water Authority to town of Batavia. And what that does, it eliminated the need and the ability really to do the water mains in Stafford. So Sweetland and Fargo fell off the board for the town of Bethany because the water is not going to come through Stafford. It's going to come from another supplier. So ultimately, it was really a factor of, like like I said, cost and to make water affordable for the residents of Bethany. Unfortunately, yes, there was the fact that that project no longer included mains within Stafford. Now, it does still include main along the town line, so along Clap Saddle. So that still is going to happen with Bethany Water 5, but ultimately, I know it impacted some people in this room, obviously, but it does not mean that we cannot provide water to those areas. There's ways to do this. We just need to outline what those situations are. Fargo, I know we've been over this a few times, and I'm just going to go into some rough reasons of why that area, so why Fargo, Clap Saddle, could not be served previously. Okay, all has to do with ground elevation. Okay, so doesn't have to do with dips in the road. Really has to do with ground elevation above sea level. So our water storage tanks on Temperance Hill really supply the water to the town of Stafford. Depending on where your house is in relation to that water level in that tank, dictates the pressure. Okay, and in the town of Stafford, some areas could have 100 pounds of pressure, others could have 35. 35 is our cutoff. Anything below 35, we cannot supply that home. And that's where the issue ran into with Fargo Road and Clap Saddle with previous projects with the town of Stafford. Hydraulically, they cannot be served from those tanks. The ground elevation on Fargo is just too high. It's basically the highest point in Stafford. Okay? Now, as I said, there is a real possibility they can be supplied from the town of Bethany. So what the town of Bethany's project is going to do, there's going to be a pump station on Ellicott Road that's going to supply water to a brand new water storage tank in the town of Bethany at a higher elevation than the Temperance Hill tanks. So that will enable the real possibility to get water through Bethany up Fargo Road. Okay, and that's really the key area that we can't serve. Like I said, Fargo and Clap Saddle. So I will say though, what we have to do is work through the Monroe County Water Authority to get their approval on this. Okay, now why I say this is Monroe County Water Authority is the sole service provider for the town of Stafford. They really frown upon getting water that goes through Batavia, so they really don't want that potential of blended water with the city of Batavia water system. They want their water, so they don't want it to go to another entity and then back in to their system. So ultimately, and we have touched base with them briefly on the possibility of this. They're open to it. I really don't think they would turn it down, but what we would anticipate, it would be a main up Fargo Road. We'd connect to our existing main, and we would have a valve that was closed, so the water would never mix. But the reality is, they would have to agree upon them providing water from another entity up Fargo Road. Now it's really just 6 homes, but ultimately, so we still have to get their blessing. So I don't think it'll be an issue, but it's really one primary hurdle we have to do related to Fargo Road. Some other things I want to point out that are going to impact any town of Stafford project is the water supply for Genesee County. I think everyone has read the articles. Genesee County is going through right now planning and actually construction for additional phases to get more water into Genesee County. What is going on right now, if they've basically told every municipality that unless a project was already in the queue, they're really not going to provide any new supply to any new projects until they have more water available to the county. Okay? Unfortunately, that does impact the discussion we have here tonight. Okay? So there's going to be some hurdles related to water supply for any new areas, and where those discussions will have to be had with Genesee County. Some good aspects of the county project, though, it does involve the installation of some major transmission mains through Stafford. So there's some cost avoidance that could benefit potential service area for this townwide water project. So ultimately, they're looking at a major transmission main, so 36-inch transmission main, along Randall, Horseshoe Lake, and Pro Roads. Okay, and again, that's a benefit to us because ultimately it eliminates the need for us to put a main down those roads. All we're really doing is the service connections. So to me, it's the way you look at it, to me, it's essentially a grant to this project and it's cost avoidance. So there is the real possibility that that project, like I said, it's in the queue. It's really just Genesee County getting through all the hurdles, getting the approvals, getting the water supply, and it's time. There's no real set date on that yet, though. They're still working through the financing aspect, but when we look at our cost estimates, those are taken into consideration. But again, the bigger concern is that capacity issue, and could we get approval from them to supply some other areas of town before those major improvements happen. I provided the board, just for your reference, I see you're looking at it right now. We did a rough informational survey several months ago that asked some basic questions about what's your water quantity, quality. The survey results were given to the board along with a map that kind of indicates green highlighted parcels are parcels that were interested in public water, red are parcels that were not interested in public water. The survey results altogether, we had, I think it was 95 responses. Not everybody answered every question, but once we get towards the end of the survey, the key things to point out: are you interested in a public water supply for your property? There was 83 people that indicated yes, 5 no, and 6 unsure. So again, good indication of the level of interest throughout the town, and I thought that was some data that would be useful for you as the board as we talk about, do we go to the next step with this process. The other thing you have, obviously, is I know there's been some petitions.
These are for you.
More of them? Yeah, so there's been a lot of petitions that have been circulated, asking what's your level of interest for public water. So again, we'll kind of process some of this data too, maybe prepare a similar map based on these petition results. And again, it gives you as a board a good indication of where the interest is, and again, do you proceed to the next step based on that level of interest? So it's all useful information. I want to go over some questions we've seen recently from residents. There's not a lot of them here, but again, I think they were relevant questions, and I want to kind of make sure I address them with the board, address them with the public. One I already covered. Was the decision to create a water district and install new pipelines put to a public vote, allowing residents to have a say? If no, please explain in detail why. As I indicated, a decision has not been made to create a district. This is in the very preliminary phase. Town board's investigating it. They're going to make some determinations based on the feedback from you, based on the surveys, based on the petitions, whether or not it goes to the next step, and based on potential costs. So, should the water district be created, it's really up to the property owners in the proposed district to say yes or no. There's really two methods that this primarily happens in Genesee County. One is the preparation of a legal petition. So it'll be a petition where every property owner gets a chance to sign. You sign it, it's a yes vote. You don't sign it, it's a no vote. Okay? And I mean every property owner. So if there's a property with 5 siblings that own the property, they all get a say. And believe it or not, I have seen it where the husband has voted yes and the wife hasn't signed it. So it does happen in a household. So that's one format, and that format's based on assessed valuation. So ultimately, if the town board elects that we want to go to the next step and the petition route's the way to go, it would be a legal petition drawn up with us and the town attorney. Where ultimately that legal petition has to be circulated by residents in the proposed district. There's 2 key things on the petition, and 2 key things altogether that you as a potential district decide on. What's the total capital cost I'm willing to spend? And what's the total annual cost that I'm willing to pay? Two key numbers. That's what you're gonna be voting yes or no on, or making a decision yes or no on, okay? At any time, do any of those numbers go higher, the town board has to bring you back and have another similar discussion, okay? So we had to do that for Water District 12. We had to kind of go back through that same process where, you know, it was a COVID thing, you know, COVID hit, you know, material prices came in much higher than they were originally estimated, so we had to go back to the people to get their approval. The other primary method is the town board passing a resolution to form the district, subject to permissive referendum. So essentially all that means is they're gonna make a motion resolution, yea or nay, and you essentially then have the opportunity to force that to a public vote. So the public, so essentially that puts it back into people's hands that are really against the project, I would say, to present to the town board a petition to force a referendum. So ultimately, what that would entail is 5% of the people that voted in the last governor's election would have to sign this petition to live in the district, submit that to the town board, and ultimately then it would force a formal vote in, at the town hall. So community engagement we've heard a lot about. This is the very early stages. I mean, we've had the survey. You know, there's been a lot of people knocking on doors. That's all part of the community engagement. Should this go to the next step, there's going to be informational meetings, there's going to be public hearings, there's going to be opportunities for you to voice your opinions to the town board, yes or no. So all those opportunities are going to come. It just hasn't happened yet because there really hasn't been any decision on, you know, do we move to this next step? And I'll go over the next step in a little while. So from an outreach standpoint, that will happen. Funding. So discussion about funding, how will the water district be funded and secured? So ultimately, should the district be formed, the town board essentially acts on your behalf, and they would be the ones working to submit grant applications to our state and federal agencies. So they'd be doing that on your behalf. Are there any environmental assessments or considerations for the pipeline construction? Absolutely. So should this project, again, go to the point where we form a district, before any district is formed, we have to follow State Environmental Quality Review Act procedures and national environmental procedures. So there's a seeker process and a NEPA process. Both of those require environmental reviews, us reaching out to all the involved and interested agencies, whether or not they're permitting agencies like DEC, Department of Health, USDA, Ag and Markets. All those agencies have to be contacted, get their feedback, so a full environmental review will be completed. Any potential issues, mitigation efforts to mitigate any impacts will be identified. Typically, I will say though, for a water main project, there's really not any real positive environmental impacts that have to be mitigated. So that step has to happen before any district is formed. Question regarding disruptions during construction. And again, I know some of these aren't really pertinent for the discussion tonight, but I wanted to get some of these out so people are aware. So how will the town address and mitigate potential disruptions to residents during construction? Ultimately, when a project is bid, there's essentially a set of contract documents, plans, and specs that the contractors have to adhere to. So they're going to sign an agreement, they have to adhere to these terms and conditions. Ultimately, these terms and conditions are going to indicate we want properties restored back to the way they were or better. Okay, so yes, there's going to be some temporary disturbance. People are going to cut across lawns, driveways, concerns over trees. That's all gonna happen, but the goal is when the project's done, no one knows we were there or the contractor was there, with the exception of seeing a hydrant every 700 feet. Rates and fees, so how will water rates and fees be determined for residents connected to a new water district? So, if we get to the point where a district's formed, ultimately, there's two aspects of the fees. One is a debt component, so the portion where the town's gonna take out a loan on your behalf to pay for the debt. The other component is related to a water bill from the water provider. So Monroe County Water Authority will provide you with a quarterly water bill for your usage. Really right now, the only number we could definitively say is a water rate. The annual debt charge, again, I've provided with the board with some rough numbers tonight. Again, these are not set in stone. These give you an idea, but there is some decisions to make on the options we're gonna provide you. Those decisions do not have to happen tonight. There was another question here about it. Is connection to public water system mandatory? It's not. New York State, unless there's some drastic public health issue, they don't mandate public connection or connections to public water. So ultimately, should the project move forward, it's really going to be up to you if you truly want to connect or not. What I will say with that though, if you are in the district and you choose not to connect, you're still responsible to pay for the debt service on the water main installation. And that's essentially New York State law. It's not a town of Stafford saying this is how we want to do it. So again, these are just some of the questions I wanted to kind of throw out there tonight. So, provided the board, I want to go over the map and the estimate. A lot of colors. So when you look at the map, there's several colors on here. The yellow color is essentially a water line that will be installed by the town of Bethany. The lighter, the blue within, the wider blue line, I would say, that's along Randall, Horseshoe Lake, and Prohl, that's the proposed water line from Genesee County. Then we really have three other color lines in the town. One being green, which we kind of designate as high density. So roads where there's a high density of properties or homes. Purple, which is what we kind of designate our medium density roads, and then low density is the red, which are roads with one or two homes along a stretch of a few miles. So ultimately, where this comes into play is kind of how we talk about the estimates. On the map too, I know it's kind of hard to read a little bit, especially for me, I can't see very well, but there's little houses on there that kind of show the approximate house count on those roadways. So as you're looking, why is a particular road red? For example, Bader Road, there's essentially two homes on Bader Road that could potentially be served. So from a color perspective, that's what you have. Now from an estimate perspective, we've internally probably developed 15 different options. We've narrowed it down to the ones you see on this page. Option one, we're providing water to everybody in the town that is not currently in a water district. Okay? So we capture every household. Option five, I'll skip ahead a little bit. Option five is very similar. Same exact thing. The only difference between option one and option five is the size of the water line on Route 33. So, what I will say is we've gone, Jeremy and I have gone back and forth today, after this was created. Pretty much option one, I would say we can X out. It's option five, which would be if we went town-wide, truly catch everybody, it would be an option five scenario. So we're looking at roughly a $17 million project cost. Now we've made some assumptions here. We've made some assumptions based on what we feel from a grant perspective the town could obtain based on similar projects, the town of Leroy, town of Bethany, town of Stafford in the past. So ultimately, we're projecting a $5 million WEA grant, a 45% grant from the USDA Rural Development. So ultimately, the local share from that 17 million is $4.35 million. That would be covered with a 38-year loan from Rural Development, and ultimately that project would serve approximately 209 EDUs, or single-family residential properties. The resulting impact would be an annual debt payment that would go on people's tax bill of $925 a year. Okay? So that's the impact. Again, this is kind of where we think if we went town-wide, where it would pan out. Could something change with the funding agencies and we get a better result? Potentially, but again, these are preliminary numbers. The other thing which we kind of talked about briefly was the cost of water. So there's really three main components. Monroe County Water Authority includes two of them on their bills. One is a 27 cent per day meter charge. The other is a usage charge of $4.40 per 1,000 gallons. So ultimately, you would receive a total annual bill from the Monroe County Water Authority for those two components. The base charge would be $98.55, and the usage charge for the typical single-family household would be $264 a year. The other cost would be a surcharge from Genesee County related to the infrastructure they're installing and the infrastructure they have installed throughout the county. So right now, essentially, every homeowner that has public water in Genesee County pays into the surcharge. So we've added that line item. That's projected right now based on their future phases to be $1.20 per 1,000 gallons. So you got your total annual debt service, $925 a year. You have your estimated yearly water cost, $434.55. We've also tacked in a district capital reserve of $40 a year. Now, I know the board understands this because we've gone through it before, but if we deviate from the typical Monroe County Water Authority standard, which is ductile iron water main, zinc coated, and go to a PVC, the town board essentially has to establish a capital reserve fund to pay for long-term repairs. Okay? If we install ductile, they don't have to have that fund, but the issue is that total project cost would go from 17 million to, I'm guessing, 25 million. Just based on that material change from ductile iron pipe to PVC. So most of the projects we're seeing now, we are utilizing PVC and establishing that capital reserve. So right now we're showing total estimated unit costs $1,400 per year per typical single-family household. So that's option 5. So then we started playing with, okay, what if we, option 2, what if we take out the low-density roads? So now we bring our capital cost down to $14,760,000. So we reduce our capital cost by a considerable amount. We also reduce our number of homes that we can serve by a lesser fraction, and ultimately that would potentially reduce the total estimated unit cost from $1,400 per year to $1,220 per year. So it's a big impact. Option 4 is essentially taking out the low density and the medium density roadways. So same thing, we're taking out a big chunk of capital cost with some of the units. Ultimately, now we'd be projected at $1,150 per year. So similar discussion we've had in, I would say, town of Leroy last year when they were looking at town-wide. It's a tough kind of decision to make, and again, I think it's going to factor on some feedback from the people in this room, and ultimately, the town board has to take some of the direction from you guys. But Leroy had the similar discussion of, do we go with the higher unit cost, knowing that we can get everybody done? Okay, we can serve everybody, yes, it's gonna cost more, yes, technically, because of that, people in the higher density areas are helping to pay for water for the lower density areas. But Town of Leroy felt that, this was the perfect opportunity for them to just get it done. If they didn't include the lower density roads, those areas would probably never get water. So they made the decision, we're all in, let's do it all as one big project, serve everybody. So ultimately, that similar discussion is going to have to happen here of, do we serve everybody? Or do we lop out certain roadways because of the impact of the unit cost? Again, it's not an easy decision to make, but ultimately, it will have to happen at some point. We had the same, actually we're having the same discussion in town of Livonia right now, and it's a tough thing. We've had a lot of residents come to us and say, hey, if it truly helps the entire community, then let's go with the full project. But again, it's a tough decision. So I mentioned the two funding sources. One of them is what we call WIA, so Water Infrastructure Improvement Act. So that's a $5 million grant program that recently the town of Bethany was awarded, town of Leroy was awarded. The other is the USDA Rural Development, which is a program you guys are very familiar with, because basically every district the town's formed to date has USDA Rural Development financing. So those would be the two key agencies that would be working with. Now, I will say there is one kind of, not issue, but thing to point out with this financing. One of them you can apply before you even form the district. The other one you have to wait to apply till after you form the district. So rural development, we could apply at any time. We could put together a report based on an option, get it to rural development, they would come back with a funding scenario for us. Now, realistically though, we need additional funding. Rural development cannot provide all the funding we need, just like we did with Leroy. We'd have to pursue that WIA grant. The issue from a timing perspective, realistically at this stage in the game, you would be looking at a next year application for WIA. So you're too late in the game really to even get it in for this year. The applications are due in June. In order to get the applications in, we have to get the district formed. District formed, environmental review done, bond resolution done, applications in. Now, is it impossible? No, but I think we'd have to have those discussions if there's a true definitive direction on option to go with, and there's dramatic public support to get it moving, then I think we may be able to fit that deadline. But it's kind of unrealistic at this point, but there is potential. So ultimately, what I would really anticipate is probably rural development financing package application this year, New York State EFC application next year, unless we can aggressively advance some of this stuff. The other things we have to deal with, so some of the next steps. As I said, I've kind of presented the board with some rough outlines. This doesn't mean these are the only options. There may be some, let's say we decide, hey, we don't want to do all the lower density. Maybe there's only 2 homes on a low density road and they don't want water. There's no, in my opinion, there's no reason to provide that road to water then if the only 2 homes on that road have no interest. So maybe there's some easy discussions we can have of lopping out some roadways that could be essentially a full project minus, say, the people that really don't want it. But I would say the key next step is kind of having more discussions on what's this potential district look like. And then from a town board perspective, there has to be a resolution passed. Again, if you guys decide, has to be a resolution passed authorizing the preparation of a map plan and report. So essentially, you'd be authorizing us and authorizing the town board to spend funds to prepare the engineering report and work with the town attorney to develop, I would say, the project. So ultimately, preparation of the map plan report, or the authorizations, I would say the key next step. Doesn't mean we have to definitively define the area right now. You could authorize this map plan report, and during that map plan report preparation, we could finalize the service area. But at some point, there's going to be that authorizing resolution. Another key thing for this potential project is an income survey. So the funding agencies utilize census data, and based on that census data, they make determinations based on how much grant money and what the loan percentage or loan rate is going to be. They have rural development has 3 primary categories. They have a poverty rate, they have an intermediate rate, and they have a market rate. Market rate, all you can get is a loan, no grant. We need a grant. And unfortunately, when I looked at the census data that's being used now for the town of Stafford, it puts us in the rate category. So in order to make this project remotely financially feasible, an income survey would have to be completed. Okay, so that's another critical step that would have to happen. Thankfully, we do have a guy down the road. He used to have an office, I think, rather than his office. I think his office he needs now. So Jay Grosso, you probably know Jay. So he does these income surveys. Ultimately, it's a process where he would send out a mailer to the property owners, essentially a survey form for the property to send back, and then he would essentially work on the door-to-door legwork needed to get all of the income surveys in. So, but it's a critical step. If we don't get the income survey, and if we don't prove the levels are in the intermediate category, it's a dead project. Okay. We've already kind of talked about finalizing the district boundary. At some point, we got to decide who's going to be included, who's not going to be included. Not an easy decision to make, but at some point that's going to happen. The environmental review we've already talked about. District formation we've already talked about, but again, it would really be kind of 2 primary factors. So let's say the decision was made to go option 5. Your essentially decision would be $17 million and $1,400 per year annually. That would be your decision. And that again, that would be either petition or essentially the board passing a resolution subject to being subject to permissive referendum. Okay, so really those two methods. I would say if there's a serious consideration for trying to get a grant application into WIA this year, I would say the board resolution would probably be the way to go. If it's a decision that, let's take our time a little bit, and petition seems to be the more favorable route, that process is going to take time. So ultimately, again, that's going to entail the map plan report being created, the petitions being developed that outline every property, their assessed value, all the property owners. That's going to entail certain volunteers in the proposed district to take those petitions door to door to get signatures. So it takes time to get that done. But once that's done, if it meets the criteria, those petitions get submitted to the town. They get accepted by the board, and then the board essentially, once they form the district based on that petition, we're done with the process. I will say there's one other key step that unfortunately it looks like we're going to have to take if this project moves forward, and it's related to the comptroller's office. So New York State Comptroller's Office designates a value every year that they feel is a reasonable cost to the property owner. That value for 2024 is $1,083 per year. If any district gets formed above that threshold, it has to be submitted to their office for review and approval. that process takes about a year. So, unfortunately, like I said, unless there's some miraculous grant funding we can find that gets us below that value, I think we're gonna be in that realm of controller review. I would say the only caveat would be if we did the income survey and we come back in the poverty category, then it puts us in a whole other level, but my gut sense, we're not gonna get there, okay? So, I know a lot to digest. Again, I wanted to kind of brain dump, I kind of thought about over the weekend, I know it's a lot of information. Again, timing's gonna be the key on two key things, I would say, is the funding, the process from the board, process from you, but also the county supply. They're kind of gonna go hand in hand. My gut sense, reality is, it's probably gonna be at least 3 years before the water is available from the county to make this happen, but it may change. But in reality, like I said, if we go through the process with the funding, reality is, we're doing rural development application this year, WIA application next year, so you're not gonna know you have all the funding in place until the end of 2025. So it kind of puts you on a parallel track if you go that route. The other possibility is, we looked at this as a kind of an all-inclusive approach. We looked at entire town, take out the low density, take out the medium density. We could divide this up into 4 separate districts if we wanted to. So we could look at this as a staggered approach. Potential there is, maybe there's some districts that would be staggered that could potentially be served with Genesee County, because it's really not a high demand item. The issue with that, same discussion I had with Town of Livonia over the past few months, which district goes first? So if you want to split this up into 2, 3, 4 separate districts, someone's going to be first, someone's going to be last. Same thing, Town of Livonia made the decision. We don't want to decide on who goes first, who goes last. They elected, hey, let's unfortunately, yes, it is a higher unit cost, but let's pull the Band-Aid off, get it done. So, with that, any questions from you guys?
Oh, a bunch of them. Does this take into account the county bringing the 36 line down through?
Yes.
Does option 5,
Yep.
does option 5 hinge? Does that cost hinge on?
Yeah, option 5 assumes they're paying for that main.
All right.
Yep. But in reality, unless they pay for that main, the water's not going to be available for the project. So in reality, it has to happen.
All right. Now, I thought we've done a lot of income surveys. Have we always been market rate?
No.
And then had the survey? Or
No, you've lucked out.
All right.
Town of Stafford is lucked out.
Well, it also depended where our districts were, am I right?
No, because it's a town-wide census.
Yes.
And what they've done is, so rural development, historically, they were using, was it 2010? Yeah. Up until this year, they were using 2010 census data. They finally made the switch, and what they're using are these American Community Surveys. I don't know if anybody's got these wonderful things. So it's actually it's not the annual census data. It's a separate survey, more detailed. I got one a few years ago. So compared to the regular census, that takes a few minutes to fill out. This one takes an hour to fill out. But they don't send it to many homes, honestly. It's a very small snapshot of the town. What sucks is you look at their data, it'll say, $72,000 plus or minus 20,000. Like, that's not too accurate to me. So ultimately, that's the data they're using. And based on that data, it puts us in that higher category. So we've lucked out in the past because we used 2010 data, we got away with it for years, and we haven't had to do them.
All right. Will that swap to 2020 census data, or is that a complete change in the law?
What was that now? Sorry.
We used 2010 census.
Yep.
Now they're using this
Yeah, they're using the,
representative survey
Yep.
to the census.
Yep.
will they eventually swap back to census?
I don't think so. Most of the agencies now are going off, because it's updated annually now. So most of these agencies are essentially using this updated annual data.
All right, if, you know, we talk about multiple districts, but would each of those districts be priced different?
Yep.
All right,
Based on density, based on linear footage of pipe. So you could have one that's $1,000 a year, you could have one that's $1,600 a year. Now, I will say, from a dollar perspective, my personal opinion is these funding agencies, they also look at what do they feel is reasonable. So we're never gonna get a project here, just so everybody's aware, you're never gonna see a dollar figure like we've seen in the past. You're not gonna see an $800 per year total annual cost for a district. These funding agencies are gonna come up with what they feel, again, is what they feel is fair and reasonable. And typically right now, it's at least over $1,000 a year per typical family home that they feel is reasonable. So you're never gonna get below that.
all right. If we do go with separate districts, the low-density roads would probably have a very slim chance of.
Well, it depends on how you divide it, right? So you could divide it, you know, we could just say, hey, 4 quadrants, you know, we could, so it's multiple ways to do it.
They all kind of isolate in the same spot, north of 5,
Yep.
right along the border with Leroy.
Yep,
So that's,
it would all be how we piecemeal.
all right, so really, if you don't go town, the way I'm reading this is if you don't go town-wide, those low-density roads
Never gonna get it.
are never gonna get it.
Nope.
All right, and did we get feedback from those low-density roads?
Some of them,
Or should that be something?
I know we have to go through these
I did
petitions.
get a lot from the agency.
You know,
So if you go, Council's Road, yes. You go into Woodland, yes, I did get a lot there.
So I would probably encourage us to maybe follow up with all those you know, if the decision's made, hey, let's do the bigger aspect, maybe we can approach those low and medium density roads and figure out, you know, hey, if it's 100% that don't want it, then why run it down those roadways?
Right.
But at some point, we're gonna have to decide, you know, where's the cutoff.
But the other thing too, you've got to look at too, is that, let's say that there's people on that road that do not want it, okay? But then you've got to look at, okay, what is the age of those people? Okay, so the next generation may be stepping up to the plate. Or you've got to look at it, if it's a farm, they might be saying, okay, the family does not want to run the farm, they're just selling everything off. That's what you also got to look at, because that is happening a lot, because the next generation does not want to farm. And the kids are like, well, what are we gonna do? We want to sell it off for, you know, residential. So we have to take that into consideration too, as we're looking at, you know, okay, what's gonna happen down the road? We have to have some sort of foresight on this, to look into the future. So what's gonna be our need and the wants of the people? Because not every piece of property that is farmland is gonna remain farmland eventually. We're hoping, you know, but it may. But you have to look at it in that sort of perspective also, down the road.
Unless they're in a smart district, they can't get water once the district's formed, if they don't opt in. Correct?
Is that correct?
If a district is formed, so if this district is formed, there's gonna be 2 things that will prohibit development. One is the smart growth, okay? So if you're outside of the smart growth area and someone wants to connect to public water, build a house, There's essentially an application process through the county to get that approval. The other key thing is because of the funding, so USDA Rural Development, essentially farming agency, right? So they will mandate that the town board passes a resolution restricting laterals to vacant land that's in a New York State certified ag district. So essentially, those properties will not be charged anything, but should the project move forward, water mains installed, someone can build a house if they want to, but legally, you cannot provide them with public water because of that guideline. So what rural development is essentially saying is, you know, they're making sure that there's some thought and controlled growth. So, but it's a thing they're gonna mandate. So now if someone wanted to subdivide, eventually get that property out of New York State Certified Ag District, that would be the way to alleviate that hurdle, but then you still have the smart growth application to have to be completed.
And don't get, it's not just if it's a farm field, it has to be part of the ag district.
Ag district, correct.
Right.
Not just local zoning ag, New York State Certified Ag District. But if you pull up the Genesee County map, click on that layer, there's not many properties there.
And also, how dependent are we on, like we saw at District 12, there were quite a few properties that would get half a unit.
Yes, we
Does this
didn't
depend
count
on-
those.
You didn't count those?
No, right now we didn't. We just counted the houses right now. So we didn't go through the process of a detailed unit count. That would really happen. So essentially, yes, there's gonna be some half units. There's gonna be, there's probably some multifamily homes we didn't account for. So we do anticipate the unit count's gonna go up, which would decrease the annual debt payment. But we felt was just, let's give you a worst case scenario right now, give you a snapshot of what we think it can be. There's not gonna be that many though, in reality.
But when you look at it, except for approvals at the county, if you have land that's even in an ag, and this is answering your question, if there's land that's even in an ag district of being fully farmed right now, there are rules for developing that type of property, where you basically have to pay back the tax advantage
Right.
that you got for a certain number of years. And then the only hard part is getting a waiver on smart growth.
Yep.
But I haven't heard of anybody being turned down.
I haven't either.
So,
They're turning people down in Virgin.
all right.
It all depends, well, also too, if it's near the village or whatever, if it has to hook up to the sewer, Virgin's got a problem with the sewer,
It's
no,
in the town.
in the town?
They've had 3 of them that they've turned down this year.
Question, Sweetland Road,
Mm-hmm.
was that included on the survey because we were originally with Bethany?
I
And
believe it was, but
I don't remember.
that's okay. We can
I
get,
mean, there's 9, 10, 11 homes.
yeah,
Because I did go out and say around that road,
okay,
and I did leave letters, so.
okay.
Well, they don't like dead end water lines.
Yeah, dead ends we try to avoid.
Okay, well, Sweetland Road, half of it is developed and there's homes.
It would be Fargo to
Putnam.
Putnam.
Yeah, and right now, I mean.
We would connect it. It wouldn't be
You have
that.
to go through all that
Yes.
vacant land.
Yep.
Even to save money, you can't, and,
It's frowned upon. Water quality is a big concern. So,
I heard it. How do
there'd
you
be
deal
very few spots right now that we're proposing dead ends. There's
How
no-
do you deal with the throughway, when you live near the throughway or the railroad that goes through?
So the throughway, there's a few of those roads that were lopped off when the throughway came through. Those would be a few small dead ends on those areas. So it's really just, really two small spurs, it looks like. And then we likely, I know we've talked about internally, there's one house off of Mill Road. And we have talked about are we gonna cross the thruway, or are we gonna cross the railroad to connect to School Road, and kind of what we're thinking internally. There's gonna be one dead end there, so right now we're really only showing kind of three primary dead ends.
So we have somebody that is, it's technically environment. The only way that they can get water is if they go through the rail track. But he could be, is it the correct term, annexed to ours, or he could be added onto ours? Because you go Caswell Road and he's right there at the but it's technically an environment, but it would be more feasible for him to get Stafford water. Because if you're gonna run it down that way, it's feasible for him to get Stafford down.
You said we wouldn't have to cross a railroad though, you said, right?
He's right, if you go to the railroad tracks on Castle Road, he's the next house across the railroad track.
Yeah, we would not be going into the town of Byron.
But if he wanted water, what I'm saying is, if
He could connect to our main,
he
but
could,
he'd have to go through the same process with the town of Byron.
okay,
Yeah, because key here is, if this district's formed, the people that pay for it are in the district,
right,
okay? So, now there is joint water districts, but in reality, you know, could you do a joint water district with Byron, include this guy? Ultimately, it's gonna add a considerable cost, because you have another railroad crossing to make it happen to serve one house. It's just probably not gonna be feasible from a cost perspective.
Is Byron doing townwide?
Byron's
Yes.
almost all time. There's probably a few
But
little
he's not
holes.
included in the Byron
I
townwide?
believe not,
Yeah, they probably had the same,
Guess it's not townwide then, huh?
yeah.
they probably had the same discussion you're gonna have, is, you know, everybody, or do we drop out a few people?
Because Birchland did townwide.
Well, if you don't, it's just gonna get even more expensive if you lock anything off. That's what you have to
Like,
look at.
it never happened, really. They're not gonna fund a project for 3 houses later on.
And it's really, a lot of, the ones in the red are the worst, right?
Yep.
So it's basically a lot of Buckley, Barthoff, and what's this
Bader.
place called? Bader, Nilesville. That's the low density.
Yep.
And then after that, the ones in purple, those are the medium density.
Yep.
So we have Sweetland, Westcott, Prentice, Mullen, Sanders. And the blue is the next step up.
No, the green. Blue is the county line.
All right, good. Green is, looks like 33 Griswold. Thwing. Is that Caswell? God, one day to forget my glasses. Mill Road.
Caswell's medium, is it?
No, tie.
Huh?
Then all of 33.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why people come down to David Byron Road and turn on Griswold Road instead of going to the very end of 237, where 237 is? Why did you stop at the railroad track?
At the time, it was a very similar discussion with the board and the level of interest of where to stop.
Because they were already coming down to Griswold. Why didn't they finish it?
It's, again, it's the same discussion we're having tonight. So where do you stop?
What is going on with the north side of Classic? you guys are bringing the Bethany
Mhm.
line down the south side.
Yep, well, it may be on the north side. We haven't decided yet exactly where it's gonna be, but,
So the north side of Clapsaddle is town of Fargo, or town of
yep,
Stafford.
yep.
Are they in Water District 5? for
They're not
Bethany?
in Water District 5, so there's two ways we can do this. There's the potential of the town forming a separate district around Clapsaddle just for the residents in Stafford. And then you would essentially be responsible for tying into the main. There's also the possibility of grouping in the cost of the services with this bigger townwide district. So there's a few options. But obviously, if you're on Clapsaddle, the reality is you could have water much more sooner than everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, what
It's
is,
just a factor of legally how we're gonna do it right now. We haven't ironed that out yet.
it would seem insane to wait for water coming from Monroe County if the main is going right by our houses on Clapsaddle.
So it's just some legal steps that we gotta kind of talk about. I gotta talk with Bethany first to make sure they're confident in the method. I mean, we've done it in multiple areas of the town. We did it with Bethany, years ago with, where town of Stafford formed a water district and we served customers in Bethany. So it's the same thing, we just gotta figure out the legal, what the right legal method is. Yes?
This has to go back to almost the very beginning of the discussion. You talk, somebody's about to explode. Really?
It's only when you talk, Jim.
We're talking about the transmission line that's coming down Randall Road.
Yep. Horseshoe Lake,
Horseshoe
Kroll.
Lake and Kroll Road.
Yep.
And I noticed it's not, in any of the things that Ron was talking about, with what density they were, because the water line is, the transmission line is coming down there.
Yep.
And that'll be available to the people.
So the way we have it worked out right
How is that
now,
gonna work out with the whole, whether the town decides in a whole town district? In other words,
so the way it is right now,
I'm confused.
the county would install a transmission main. We have counted those units though into this unit count,
Oh, okay.
okay? So even though you're on that transmission main, you would still pay
Yeah,
the
I
same debt
understand,
service as everybody else.
I understand that.
Yeah, it's the same thing actually we did for Water District 1 in Stafford years ago. So that, that was essentially main transmission main down Route 5. Those people were part of it, and then the town essentially constructed a few additional spurs. So it's just essentially having those units as part of the bigger whole. And they'd all pay the same debt service.
Yeah, I understand.
How does it work on like the border lines, like if you're saying is Leroy, if Leroy is doing everyone, if one side of the road is Leroy and the other side of the road is Stafford, so for example, Nileville Road,
Yep. Well, that's the one road we're not hitting Lake Six, sorry, we're not hitting that. So we're in Leroy, we're not hitting it, so.
okay,
So now there is properties in Leroy, right?
yes,
So what would happen there is ultimately, if the decision's made, at the town of Stafford level, that we want to hit that roadway, we would have a discussion with the town of Leroy, and they would reach out to their property owners and say, do you want to be part of this or not?
okay,
And if they did, ultimately what would happen, we would establish that total capital cost, that total unit cost. The town of Stafford would form a district, and the town of Leroy would essentially form a district at the same numbers. So they'd all contribute to the same debt service. So we haven't reached out to them properties yet, and again, that's some more units we could potentially pick up to help with hopefully lower the cost.
But if one side's on Leroy and one side's on Stafford, since Leroy is about a year ahead.
Yeah, but we're not going down that roadway. That's one road we're not
So,
going. Yeah, sorry,
again-
I forgot about that roadway.
So again, townwide
Yeah.
isn't quite so
Yeah,
townwide with them on
that's
it.
all right.
All right.
Forgot about that one.
Because they need it there. She needs it there.
Can you have a water district with 9 homes on it?
You can have a water district with 3 homes on it, we have it. The issue is, the reality is to get funding for a district with limited number of homes is rare nowadays. So the funding agencies,
I can't believe that.
the,
How can you say that?
because it's factual.
Our government gave Haiti
I'm just telling you what,
$1 billion for their improvements, for water, electricity.
telling you what
You're
I've
telling me I
seen,
can't get a grant here in the United States?
telling you what I've seen. So rural development kind of made a change several years ago. We had a few projects that were pretty small, that only served a few number of homes, and they don't like funding those because it's the same amount of work for them, I think, to do that small district versus a bigger district. So it's a, not impossible, but they don't encourage it.
One more. If everything hinges on getting rural development grants, that probably has to be the first step we make, is do the income survey.
Two key first steps, I would say, is the board authorizing the preparation of that plan report, so we can fine tune this. You as a board making a decision as to what the district boundary looks like. Then we do the income survey based on that district boundary.
Well, if you do the income survey whole town, then you still have all the information for,
The income survey is just for the people in the new district.
all right, so you have to have the district before you do the
You have to
income.
identify that district boundary.
All right.
Yep.
Part of, but what it really runs into is without rural development, none of these, all these assume rural development grants.
They all assume rural development grant and WEA grant.
All right,
You have to have both, or it's not feasible.
I guess what I'm driving at is probably the most efficient thing to do then is look at a townwide, then look at an income survey to see if we can get any money. Because it isn't gonna get any better if you divide it, like I said, you divide it up into 4 districts, you get one that's very good and have low cost to it, but you'll never build the other ones. Because if they go off, when you do that district, it just makes the townwide even harder to find.
And I think you're gonna be in that range, right? So you're gonna be in that, I would say bare minimum, best case scenario, $1,000 a year. And where we're showing right now is $1,400. So it's a $400 a year difference if you decide all in or if you decide to piecemeal stuff and take out roadways.
Well, letter writing to our representatives out.
Never hurts.
If everybody,
Never hurts.
can it lower the rate?
No.
Or give us a lower interest rate?
No,
No.
no.
It's just,
Income, all income based.
You mentioned in your report over there, the cost that would be added to their taxes about $1,000.
Yep.
Now, if they go town-wide, will that be the same for everybody that goes into that program for that?
That anybody in the new district would be, pay the same amount.
Because it's not that way now. I mean,
No, then we have 12 different districts and they're all different,
Well,
depending on,
within the remaining townwide districts.
yeah, it's
You're
truly
not
not,
gonna,
we're not
you're not
picking,
gonna
we're not,
reprice
no,
District One.
no, no,
Yeah.
we're not consolidating. Yeah.
Because some roads are gonna have a lot of houses on them that need the water, some are gonna have 2 or 3.
Yep,
And
they all pay the
so
same.
Is a system that you've got now, they'd be different prices, but.
No, they'd all pay the same.
That's gonna be all the same.
If you're in the new district, you'd all pay the same cost.
How many households do not have water? Do you have that figure? Did you have that? I mean, roughly? Oh,
What kind of a time frame are we looking for to have everybody in Stafford have water? 10 years?
No, I would say you're 2026 best case to 2028, kind of that realm.
Yeah, we were in Bethlehem too. Yeah, that didn't work out.
No, it didn't. I know that impacted you guys, it's just how it worked out, they couldn't afford it.
and when do you start paying? Before you get the water?
No. Typically, you start paying, for a project like this, There may be a little overlap, but for the most part, when water's available, you start paying.
No maintenance, we don't pay for the meters, we don't.
Nope, different. Different than the Bethany discussion.
So we're paying 27 cents.
You pay 27 cents a day, it's essentially a base charge. But there's still a process in Winter County Water Authority where you have to buy the meter. Now typically we can get those fees absorbed by the project cost. Well, typically we can absorb those in total capital cost.
Now, when Bethany is signed into on the table, where do you think they get their water bills from?
On the table.
On the table?
Yes.
Are these reports and maps that need to be generated in writing, are those available to us?
No, these are just draft right now. I don't want to, these aren't really, they're not a public record. They're still in draft format.
So the town will post them on the website?
I would recommend they don't, just my opinion. It's very preliminary data. I know what happens, you put the preliminary data out there and everybody thinks it's gospel. And then when they come back in, 3 months and we talk about some more numbers my preference is either draft format, really the official data would be once the map plan report is finalized, the board accepts the map plan report, that's really the official document. These are really just kind of internal ideas and discussions.
Are the people aware that as additional houses are built along the water line, it reduces your annual?
They are now.
Well,
You
a
just
lot
told
of people don't know that.
Yeah. So yes, if there's any additional homes that are built, but we did talk about, the restrictions on that. So the reality is there's not gonna be a lot of new homes, there may not be any, but also vice versa. The house burns down, the unit cost goes down. So, yeah, every year essentially what happens, the number of units gets reassessed based on what's happening. So if someone has a single family home, they decide to put an apartment in there, so that would be an additional half a unit that would contribute towards that. So every year that it could fluctuate a little bit. Yes?
Do you foresee any changes to the plumbing for existing districts? Like if they're bringing something down Randall Road, do they need to make the line on 237 bigger? Or?
No, nope. No, the Randall Road is essentially gonna be the main supply line from the North Road pump station. So that'll be the main supply line to the tanks.
What does the town of Stafford get out of that?
The town of Stafford gets essentially free water down Randall, Horseshoe Lake, and Florida. That they don't have to pay for.
Which, if we didn't have that,
That cost would be higher.
probably significantly higher for
Probably be $1,500 a year, maybe even higher. Yes, that's a huge benefit to this project.
We don't even know if we can do town-wide.
Any more questions?
What is the board's initial thoughts on this?
Are you looking for, we haven't done any type of vote, we haven't done any discussion. If you want to know our personal thoughts on it, I'll be glad to give you mine. When you look at the map, we have some sections that are and always have been rough to get water to. I think what we need to do is investigate if those people even want water there. I'm a fan of finding out right away, do we qualify for the grants? Because if we don't qualify for the grants, none of this happens. If those income surveys don't come through, we'll be, that's happened to Bethany, right?
Yep.
All right.
That
I think
project,
it's safe to say we'll do whatever we can to help the project wherever it may be, We're not gonna stand in your way for certain. But But there's certain things that we just can't do.
How does the town board go about the forming the districts and stuff? How often do you meet and discuss this? Once a week, everybody gets a preliminary, piece of paper, here's what you need to find out, from the board?
Since we normally work through an engineering firm, we normally do it on our monthly schedule. Because a lot of times, the length of time between getting estimates is not weekly, it's monthly. So there is no inherent advantage of us coming in and if there isn't anything that's moved, we can't do anything about it. Now, we have done special meetings to make deadlines and to speed things up. But we would handle it in the normal course, and probably if we need a special meeting to make a deadline, we would do that. And I don't want to speak for you about it, but.
No, like I say, we do whatever is reasonable to help you.
Bob, I think District 5 is on such a different time schedule. I would think the town should look at a district around District 5 and a different schedule than everything else. But we're gonna miss an opportunity. We have a water line that's gonna be going down Clapset.
Is that gonna happen?
Yes. Yeah, they got the money, fine, they got the money.
All right,
Well, they still gotta wait 25 days now to see if it'll be a challenge as a vote from the board, but I don't think it's gonna be a challenge.
And that's gonna be Batavia water.
Yes. Yeah, and then, yeah, that'll be Batavia water. So odds are, if it was kind of a separate, it would probably be served from Batavia, and odds are it would be Batavia water bill versus the Monroe County water bill. But this is a discussion we can have with Tom Bethany, that it's really their project first, but so I'll have a conversation with Carl, get his feedback, and then I can approach the board.
And I'm sure all the people on the Clap Center will want to be included in that.
Yes, we do think so.
Would that also have to have Monroe County's approval for
Yes.
them to go?
Yep. Yeah, but then there's precedence for that. The Fargo road's a little bit different because it's actually supplying water in versus just on a town line. So like I said, there's plenty of precedence for town lines between Batavia service area and Monroe County Water Authority service area.
Well, you talk about Fargo Road. Okay, here's Fargo Road, here's Cooknock Road, okay? There's a valve here, you need to connect them together. Monroe County Water. But I don't understand what the problem there is.
Between what?
Between Fargo and Cooknock, to go down Sweetland.
There is no,
Why can't we have Monroe County Water there?
on Sweetland you could. Fargo you can't.
District.
Fargo you can't.
You're talking about Water District 5 in Bethany, okay, which has cut us off,
Yeah,
but yet we want to go from Fargo to Clapsaddle.
yeah, someone would have to install the main. That'd have to be a Stafford project.
Yeah.
Clapsaddle's the only one that's in a different, could be in a different category, because Bethany is putting water main down Clapsaddle. They're not going to install water main up Fargo. That would be part of this project. Same with Sweetland.
Is Clapsaddle included in the estimates that we
The
have
units are,
for
yes.
5?
The units are, yes.
Well, Frank, you have water that comes as far as your house.
And then
Evanston, yeah.
Thank you. To put it in there.
it's the best thing that ever happened.
Will the town board be deciding on the resolution within the next month? Isn't that the next step, the resolution?
The next step is really the resolution
When does the
authorizing.
town board expect to be making that decision?
Well, we need a resolution from our attorney.
Mhm.
How long does that take?
It could happen, I think, by next board meeting.
Yeah, you need to do your next board meeting, yeah, next board meeting's easy, but.
So the feasibility study's finished, then, right?
No, we've done some, essentially what I kinda call back of the napkin estimates, just to see where we stand. Huh?
I know you've got a lot of petitions.
Yeah, that's actually something done separately from us, that's just,
I know.
yeah, yeah. But that data that's very useful to figure out, you know, where do people really want it, where don't they want it, so.
The income portion, is that door to door, or does that come by mail?
It'll come by mail. With the income survey, they're required to get a certain percentage of responses. So typically what happens is the income survey, now it's a third-party income survey, so the town board never sees the data. All that gets submitted to the town is the income levels and numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So no reference to property owners, parcel numbers, nothing. And literally all they're gonna look for is if there's 200 homes, they're likely gonna need probably 175 back. And what they're gonna do, they're gonna run them in sequential numbers, so lowest to highest, and the middle number is the key.
And when should we expect that? After
It's-
the resolution?
Yeah,
or-
yeah. They'll have to go through that step, and then we gotta define we still need to define the district boundary. They gotta decide what that is before we can really go down that road. So if they're mailed out, typically what we hear is 40 to 50% of those get returned automatically. The ones that don't get returned, the guy goes door to door until he gets the required number of returns.
So in order to come up with this resolution, we're gonna have to include you in that too, right?
Yeah, it'll be a resolution authorizing CPL to prepare the map plan.
So that the board will discuss this tonight, do the resolution next.
We can do that tonight to authorize you to plan.
No,
No.
it's actually subject to permissive referendum on its own. So because you're essentially using town funds for a potential district, and it's subject to permissive referendum on its own, so.
So when will there be public hearings? I know they're all along the way.
So really from a public feedback standpoint, I know there's been talk about, you know, more door-to-door stuff, which is great, very helpful. You know, obviously we have the town website we can post information on. But they're kind of the two key public meetings. I would say there'll be a public informational meeting, which will really just be inviting everybody, whenever we decide a boundary, they'd all be invited to a meeting, where we would inform you of what the proposed final numbers are. So really what you'd be deciding on, you know, what that total capital cost is, what the annual cost is.
And it should be
That-
within
that's an-
3 months?
That's an
or-
informational meeting. Well, it's really up to the board, it's up to how we progress with, it could be 3 months, it could be 6. There's just a lot of variables. The other key meeting is a public hearing. The public hearing is the meeting where the board essentially votes to form the district now. And we also get to decide on how we want to form a district. Do we want to petition?
No, there is the potential, based on how the income survey comes out, where if we fail as whole town, should we go back and look at individual districts to see where we can get?
Yep.
That's why I was saying, it seems best to do a whole town resolution, get the income survey to know where we are on grants, because without the grants, we're nowhere.
Yep.
And then if we fail for the grants at that level, then look at smaller ones.
The-
I'm giving that's opinion.
You can, you just gotta be cautious of some of the funding agency guidelines. Sometimes they wanna see that, you know, You're doing they frown upon sometimes you carving it up after the fact.
Well, and they used to frown about us putting it together.
No, how we word it.
People and leave it.
It's gotta be careful.
No water for you.
No water for you, 10 years.
So with the dead end on top of it,
Right now, yes.
with the dead end on Sweet.
Yep.
So what's the difference if there's a dead end on Sweet with a dirt house? Or you go just past my house?
That was a different time and day. That was installed, what, 50?
You could take 3/4 of a mile.
I'm just saying, it was 15 years ago. Different mentalities, different criteria, disinfection byproducts. They existed back then, but no one knew what the issues were, that they were carcinogens. That's something heavily regulated by the EPA, by the state health department. So it's something the Winter County Water Authority takes seriously. So they, where possible, we need to eliminate it.
The other thing that, you know, we should look at is the fact that if you go back not that long ago, the whole town districts only started coming out after a lot of these smaller districts were formed, because the limits were much lower before.
Yeah,
So you couldn't, when one came through, and and I've heard people express this opinion, well, when one came through, we all should have got one. There was no money.
So what they did back in the day, they said, we'll give you grant money, but there's a max.
Yes.
So they gave us a limit. Back then it was like $500,000 or $750,000 max that we could get. But what the funding agency finally realized, you look at our map, right? They basically had to do this amount of paperwork 12 times. But now they're finally realizing, why don't we just fund the entire project and be done with it? Versus going through the same amount of paperwork 12 times.
Well, we have nitrates in our water, and that's not very nice, we can't use it. And I think that you're talking about the Buckley Road being as a very low possibility of getting water.
So if the people want it, then,
Yeah, is Prentice and Buckley still in the running, or?
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
They're all, absolutely. And that's where they're gonna wanna hear from, the people on those roadways at low density. Everybody in those roads want it.
As long as you're willing to pay for it, might as well.
Well, we're gonna be paying for it anyway.
Part and parcel is, when you do a whole town at the end,
Yeah.
a lot of the districts that were lower priced are already locked in.
Right.
So it is gonna be more expensive. So,
Yeah.
I guess there was no particular advantage for coming in last in the water.
Yeah.
So, if you're referring back to, Clarksdale, the 6 homes on Farm Road. Now, let's say that Bethany, something goes amok there. Can we put like a lift pump so that we're able to push the water up?
Nope. Need a tank. That was always the limitation. You can't, Monroe County
I don't
Water.
know that, I just, Monroe County, yeah.
Yep. So, have to have a tank and a pump station. And without Bethany, there's no tank or pump station.
So without Prentice or Buckley, would Woodland Drive get water?
If you could run the line from Randall through the field, you could.
That's what I was saying, you can run it right away through the field.
I guess let's see where
I
the,
mean, you limit Woodland from getting.
let's see where the interest goes, the data,
You
the
got
numbers.
12 or 13 homes. 2 water
Pretty
towers
dense,
that are by the highway department. One is for Stafford.
One top, one's cold. Stupid joke. A lot of people say they're hot and cold. No, one is actually, what they used to be, one was Monroe County Water Authority water, one was City Containing water. That has since changed. The valve between them has been opened, so it's basically all Monroe County Water Authority.
Now, Fargo Road will be a dead end, because
Yeah.
it's not flowing into a
Yep.
hotel.
Like I said, they're not, you can do them, it's just We need to limit them as much as possible.
But Sweetland will be
Be a
connected,
loop.
it'll be a loop.
Yep.
Anybody else? We'll move
The
on.
copies that they have, is it possible to get one of those?
No, I like I said, their draft format, I wouldn't,
The household.
yeah, I'd rather keep it in draft format and not circulate to the public.
Can we at least see it tonight?
What's that?
Can we see it tonight just in passing, or, I mean, we're not allowed to?
I mean, I went over the data, I don't know what
Well, it'd be nice to look at the map and see where the areas of interest are the most dense.
I can show you out there.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I don't want to distribute it. Just my opinion.
I have a question. You said Randall Road and Horseshoe Lake, those will be main lines. Is that
Yep.
going to be done anyways, or is that
Yes.
hinge upon?
No, that's gonna be done anyways.
That's gonna be done anyways.
Yep.
So what is the projected time on that? Because my understanding is what they're supposed to put a tank in, right, like
Yep.
the fill station?
Yep, that's already funded.
Okay.
So the
Well,
tank's already.
when's the start date supposed to be?
It depends, it's a lot of variables. I'm hearing anywhere between 3 and 5 years.
So that's gonna affect.
A lot of variables.
So that's gonna, technically that'll affect the people on the main line.
It'll affect everybody in this proposed district. Without the water, more water to the county, this doesn't happen.
Now, how is this part of that text? I noticed town of Stafford, water portion, and then Genesee County.
That's that search.
$60. What do they do with that money? I mean, they're getting it, but what is it?
That helps pay for the debt for all the water main Genesee County has installed.
Yes.
So Genesee County paid for the water line down 19 through Leroy. Down Route 5, they paid for the water tanks, they paid for pump stations, they paid for, so they own all that debt. So that surcharge that's on that bill pays for that debt. And when I say $1.20 per thousand, that's gonna pay for, to help pay for that 36-inch line. But everybody in the county pays that. Everybody pays it. I pay it. I live in the town, or Village of Virgin, I pay that surcharge.
Once you get water, you pay it.
You pay it, you got it. What's the value? Yeah, once you're drawing water, yeah, you pay it.
How will the connection between Randall and Horseshoe Lake be done?
They're gonna come back around, they're not gonna go through they're gonna go where, there's already water line there, but they're gonna keep going down 237 and then turn the corner.
Well, but they're not gonna go just straight across.
No. That'd be a hell of a project. Feasible, but hell of a project.
Is there any cost the pump station just for the upper elevations of Fargo and Clapsaddle?
What's that now?
You gotta put a pump station in just for Fargo and Clapsaddle.
That's the only area of the town cannot be fed off those two tanks.
That's my point. Why wouldn't that just come from Batavia then, at a lower cost, and reduce this whole project cost for town of Stafford?
It is, we're not building a tank and a pump station in this property. We're using Bethany's tank and pump stations.
So it's still coming, water's still coming from the town of Bethany? Or
Yeah.
town of Batavia?
Yeah, just for Clapsaddle, Fargo. If this project, so that's the only two roads that water would come from town of Batavia. Everything else would be from those two tanks.
So we're not getting it from Monroe County, those two roads?
Correct.
I got you.
Yep.
So if the city of Batavia runs out of water,
Alabama,
are they gonna keep getting water from Monroe County?
these tanks up
They
there.
have to, that's part of the discussions right now is, do you keep the water plant open, do you not, so a lot of, those wells, obviously, we've all seen the drought.
They do have some
They rely on a well and a creek,
And they got a big tank.
a lot of other discussions.
Majority of it comes right out
We'll
of
talk
the
for
tank.
hours on it.
Let's say we're optimists and everything goes forward, we're gonna do our thing here. We have to wait for the Genesee County project, I think you said it was about 3 years out.
Yep.
Do we have to wait for that to complete before our work starts, or do we actually start that in parallel?
A lot of discussions got to happen between the county and us before I can say one or the other, honestly.
You did say earlier that they're already saying they're limited with water
They
until
are.
that main comes through. Now, I thought that main was supposed to come through to shut down Batavia water.
Part of it. They're also tapped out right now. So they've essentially all the existing projects in the queue, they've allocated their water supply. They don't wanna, knowing the drought we had this year, they don't wanna go any higher with that allocation. They don't wanna get us in a spot where they're nervous every summer. They want a little cushion, which I don't blame them.
For whatever it's worth, I contacted, I had a conversation with Steve Hawley, and he indicated when all the studies are done and red tape, and contact his office, and he'd be glad to try to help with grants.
Never hurts to pester them.
Can't hurt.
Well, that's good, because I called Kristen Gillibrand 4 months ago, and she keeps telling me every week, we will get back with you. Okay?
The higher up you go, the less they help.
That was more than 4 months ago. Then we get a letter every 6 weeks. Thank you for your patience, but I will be getting back to you.
The reality is, can they help pester the agencies to make awards? Yes, but the awards are gonna be based on the guidelines that are already established, so they're not gonna give you, you're not gonna get more grant money. It could happen sooner because you're pestering. I mean, the reality is Bethany and Leroy Leroy, I was shocked this year, honestly. I think, I knew Bethany was gonna get it, but I suspect because of the drought conditions in the county that Leroy got it because of that.
How does the town of Batavia get it so fast? It seems like every time I pick up the paper, there's another legal notice and they're doing another section.
Town of Batavia,
Town of Batavia.
they've done a new district in a while, that I recall.
Or is it a sewer system? or
They do
something?
sewer stuff, yeah.
But it seems like
All the more
they're moving so
improvements,
fast.
yeah.
Hey, Eric, how's any of this personal? What town is this?
How's what?
This conversation. We're sitting here at 9:15, and we're answering questions about other towns.
I don't know.
I'm just saying.
Are you gonna answer questions about water district?
Currently, I need to shut up, so.
Yeah, I didn't say that.
Huh?
Any more questions?
Why are we even considering water lines? I don't understand. Water that bad around here, or what?
It's being considered based on interest from the public, based on your neighbors and the other residents of the
Well,
town.
maybe the neighbors have $38,000 over 38 years to pay and all this other, but that's ridiculous for water. Why don't we just drill new wells?
That's, again, those opinions are out there. I think and we encourage you to voice, ultimately, voice those opinions to the town board. Also, voice those opinions. We want to hear it either way. You want them or not want them.
We'd like, on Buckley Road, we'd like water, we've got iron in our water.
Yeah, I know. What is it?
We're close to Twain Road, I think there's water on Twain Road, right?
But what does the timeline look like for deciding the district? Because I know our road is talked about a lot tonight of low density, but I think there was 6 or 8 of us here at one point, so I would say there's interest, but nobody's ever come to our house and
We're gonna get
asked,
surveys.
so.
Yeah, well, so I would say probably the next 3 months, there'll probably be a lot of discussion going on with those roadways.
Okay. 'Cause
I wonder how many years it'll be before they overtax Monroe County water, so they can't, can they keep producing more and more and more?
Ontario's a big body of water. That's a big pond.
Yeah, but they pump to get it there.
Yep.
600 feet.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on.
Anything else for me, Bob? Anything else for me?
Everything at 12.
Hey, you're back.
Wait till the crowd diminishes maybe.
You ever see that over there? Oh, I have beautiful water, but I took it anyway.
I'll take a look at it sometime. Thanks.
We had to go for those money, and we had to go with the worst water. So actually, you're kind of penalized if you have financial.
I figured out that was still cheap water.
When you run out. It'll be cheap when you run out.
We're up on the well pump. Then I'll pay for it.
They said it's all in the
Thing is, Gary, what do you call it? Well pump now. You're gonna call Pete? He's 80. You're gonna call the speed boy? His pump's gone.
You got a good well back there, do you?
It's awesome.
Wait a minute. But mine, Charlie, I've seen him leave the well on there when Charlie's even over there flooding the barnyard and run all day long.
Charlie, I know that
See you.
Hello
to Laura.
And
Marlowe's.
Yeah, hopefully it gets better. Yeah, They come
when they were
Yeah, we talked.
Take care.
You know, couldn't see like, I can see the green was all the way up.
Yeah.
Good. That's something new they come out with. Good? Yep. I see a couple of other towns had them on there.
Take care. We'll have a drill at railroad next week. What they don't know, Lauren.
To bring my checkbook in, and you can.
It's just other towns had those.
You guys leave it? There's questions about Water District 12 that you guys need to answer. That's on the.
Water District 12, the thruway crossing is finished, we're waiting for CSX, we've been asking CSX for a date since October 18th.
Correct, so what is our town board doing about it? Or
We're
what are
gonna
you
start
guys
calling
doing about it?
the local
Who has
assembly.
contacted CSX to find out where they're at?
The contractors contacted them every week since October 18th.
Correct. But what have you guys done about it? We're paying you, right?
Yeah? We contact them every week.
You contact them?
Well, I have someone else do it for me, but yeah. It's not sitting idle.
It has been sitting there.
We haven't been sitting idle. CSX continues to say, when someone's available, we'll let you know.
Right.
We can't force them. We've tried. Tim Hennis has given us names of different people at CSX to contact. They said, that's not my department. Follow the procedures.
Sounds like they're derailed.
A little bit.
They don't care. It's a
Right.
federal, they're a federal subsidized railroad, they don't care. Pretty much what it is.
Basically. Yeah. Because I've got a different project with a different railroad. It's on their schedule, at their time, at their convenience, and not any sooner. So it's just the nature of the beast dealing with the railroad. Thruway Authority, when we started boring that the Monday after Thanksgiving, we got it to the middle between the lanes, it got hung up. Had to do a little work on the machine, got it to the north side of the pavement, and hit another obstacle, rock, the board head, got off track. Last week, Monday, we got permission to open excavate a hole 15 feet down, 7 feet off the pavement. We had the bore pushed the next day. It took 2 weeks for the Thruway Authority to review what we had submitted. And they said, yeah, do the shoring, go take it up, fix it. So everybody else has been obliging and helped get the project move forward, but the railroad is the bottleneck. They're always the bottleneck.
Here's yours, there's one, this makes no sense either, it comes from the book.
All right, thank you. That's what I want.
Yeah, and the Town of Byron project is a little bit further ahead. They may have chlorinated water in the pipes at the town line, and then Water Authority will turn the valve, and we're gonna try to see if we can get water at least in the north end, to at least get it tested and flushed, so that we can move part of the project a little bit further, but we gotta wait and see where the rest of it falls. We're trying to push it, but we're limited by CSX right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Approval of the organizational meeting minutes of January 8th.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Councilman Pacer, second by Councilman Panic to approve the organizational meetings of January 8th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Approval of January 8th, 2024 regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Panic, second by Councilman Young to approve the January 8th, 2024 minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approval of fire department report. You want me to read it?
No.
No, okay.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Councilman Pacer, second second by Councilman Deason to approve the fire department report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Basically 29 calls, if you want to sum up the report.
Approval of the ZEO report. Motion to approve.
Second.
Jim, you made a motion.
Again, 2 permits.
We need a vote.
Motion by Councilman Deason, second by Councilman Pacer to approve the ZEO report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Approval of the Assessor's report. Motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
Again, first line on January 1st, send out state mandate letters, let everybody know they might be eligible if they're at least 65. That's the crux of it.
Motion by Councilman Fanning, second by Councilman Young. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Update on ZEO Training. Don's not here, so
You'll have 2/3 done by March 22nd, that's what he's saying. Thank you. And finishing 90.5, whatever that is, in May and June.
okay, you want to make a motion to approve this?
Make that motion. Second.
Who said Pacer? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Order 12, we beat that old horse to death tonight.
No, not yet.
Yeah, I got a question about it.
Why are we paying? I thought we weren't paying until the water was flowing.
You can drink water.
It's on my bill.
The town's paying.
You're hooked up to it?
No, they're not
Well,
across the
Of course, that doesn't
road.
matter. If it's out there, whether you're hooked up or not, you pay.
It's not installed.
It's not flowing. You told us we don't pay, and he said you don't pay until it's flowing to your house. They haven't even tested the lines. Because they're still waiting on the CSX flag guy. I've been paying it for 3 months.
But if it's hooked up and flowing.
It's not.
No, but what if it's hooked up and flowing midsummer? Do you wanna wait till next year to have it turned on?
No, turn it on.
No, they're all
Start
gonna
charging me
We're gonna
then.
get a half years of our taxes back?
Yeah.
The debt is going to be the same no matter what.
But
When you
that's
start
not.
paying at one period, it's going to end, you're probably not going to be here, but it'll end in 40 years.
That's not the point. The point is, you said several times, we've been doing this for 8 years, and you have said several times, you will not pay until your water is flowing. We took you for your word. And now we're paying, and now they're telling us it may be June or July.
So again, what do we do, move it to next year?
Sure, why not?
Oh, we don't care. We're paying on the debt now.
Is the loan,
Yeah.
we pay the money we're paying, I'm assuming is for
You
the
don't
loan.
pay on the debt till it's finished. No, the town is paying. Town don't pay on it till it's finished.
You're paying the loan?
We've already paid a bunch of bills on this.
Okay, no.
Increments.
We're-
We've already paid a bunch.
Our yearly
But not on the
fee,
debt.
our yearly fee,
Pardon
we
me?
were told was for
The stuff
the
going to the ground's
loan,
already been paid.
right?
That's not.
Is that what, are you paying on our water loan?
No.
Then we should not be charged. Our 540, what is it? Is it still
No,
543?
what is what you're saying, are we, the grants have already come through on
Right.
that. So we're not paying, everybody else is not paying the carrying cost for your water right now.
Right, but my question is,
But it's all right if, as town taxpayers, we pay to carry your water, but you're awfully worried because the water isn't turned down right now.
Yeah, it's not turned on and I'm paying, yeah. Because you guys said we wouldn't pay. Now, the 543 or whatever it was, paid was for the loan repayment.
Yes.
So my question to you is the town paying on that loan?
No, we got the grants, we should not be paying on that loan anymore.
Then basically I don't feel I should be paying until that loan is getting paid.
Why? Who's gonna pay for the loan? If
We
we're
will.
not paying for it, you should, it's your water.
We will. When you turn it on, I'll be more than happy to
Doesn't
pay
have
for
water
it.
yet.
You have a water district in front of your house.
We've had one for 8 years and we haven't, it's been going on. So we haven't paid for 8 years, we've paid for the last few months.
9 years starting next month.
You had COVID in the center, and if you look at it, even if these things are expedited, they're 3-4 years. So 8 years is 8 years.
Water
You should have
District
been for 8
13,
years, I don't have, that's like getting a vehicle, going down and buying a vehicle and not driving it for, you want to pay it for 8 years and not have it? You're not gonna do that. I know you're not gonna do that. So why should we do it?
Well, no, I'm already paying tax dollars to float your water district to be installed, and I get nothing from it. So to hear you complain that I'm not gonna pay till the water goes on,
No,
when I'm already paying taxes to subsidize that and carry it.
that was your words, not our words. You said 8 years ago, 9 years ago, starting next month, just so you know, it's 9 years. But that's what you said 9 years ago. Came right out of your mouth,
and all these other
not
things
mine,
we've asked.
yours.
All right, what did I say that's so objective?
You said that we wouldn't pay for it till the water's installed and it's ready to go.
And it's flowing in your house.
Well, number one, I don't recall saying that.
Well, I'll find the tape for you.
As a board, we may have said that. I don't recall making a promise to you guys that until the tap runs, you're not gonna pay.
We reserve the right to be wrong once in a while.
Drop the hammer.
Well, no, plain and simple. If we can't get CSX to move, we're not gonna redo all of the paperwork,
Have you
all
guys
of the loan agreements.
Have you guys called CSX? Now I know the engineer says they have, and Sergi says they have called. Has the town called
No,
CSX?
because we depend on these guys as our program managers.
Is the engineering firm put out to bid, by the way, on water districts?
No, it's
Quite a
professional
hefty.
service.
Oh,
We go with who has provided us the best service in the past.
gotcha, okay,
Same thing with attorneys,
right.
same thing with accountants. Now, construction, that's bid out.
Right, okay.
Do you get the lowest bid doctor when you're sick?
Yeah, I pay $40 copay. They don't give you bills up front. You just
So-
go.
Same thing, professional services.
So are we not getting the water back or our water back?
You'll get your water turned on as soon as we can get CSX to move.
Good. That wasn't the question.
We're not gonna redo the paperwork to stop the current payment system.
Why weren't we advised we were gonna start getting charged?
That's just the question.
Because we
Because,
went by
again-
you saying you're not gonna pay until the water flows, and voila, I get a bill in the mail.
Based on the information we had a year, 2, 3, 4 years ago, we said X, we said that whatever we said. Well, it didn't work out that way.
And you don't have to advise us that we're gonna start paying.
Well, at any rate, like I say, we advised you based it on the information that we had at the time, and it has changed. What can I say?
What's changed? the date that they were supposed to finish that?
Well, we thought by now that hookup would have been done.
For the contractor, he's got till August to have it done. So we shouldn't pay till August.
Well, he must know something that nobody else does then. Because the railroad's standing in the way.
Oh, right, no, I'm just saying his contract has it till August.
Yeah. Well,
Last meeting too, when,
he might come up short in this scenario too.
You get a monthly
the
bill.
last meeting.
He's not coming up short, because he's just gonna give you a new bill that you're gonna have to pay.
Well, the last meeting
Or
too,
they have to pay.
Clark Patterson told these guys it'll be March, April, that they should have water running. And I did write that down in my notes from the last meeting. The gentleman that was here, it wasn't Eric, but it was the other gentleman that sat here.
Jeremy.
He did say that to them, that they should have water running by March.
Well, that was all hinging on the railroad. But if
Yeah,
the railroad don't
I
answer
know.
the phone,
I know.
they could drill tomorrow if the guy answered
Well,
the
phone. Then he should have said clearly, he should have said, we're waiting on CXX. Until CXX gets back to us, we are now waiting on them. We're roughly estimating, hopefully, maybe by March, depending on CSX. That's how we should have worded it. Now, I don't know if you guys are getting copies of the emails from the engineering group, where I would want to say, okay, we've got people waiting, we've billed the people. Can you show us the emails that you have sent CXX? Just so to make you follow up, because sometimes
You'll have to
it's lip
FOIL
service.
request those.
No, but what I'm
Actually-
saying, but what I'm saying is, are they updating you?
Actually, you can't foil a private company.
If the line goes in front of a house and they don't hook into it to their house, they're still gonna pay that tax.
the debt
Yes.
service, correct.
That's right.
They're just not getting a bill from the water company.
Right.
So there's people up my road that didn't wanna hook into it. They're paying the same tax I do, and I got the water.
Yep.
But,
Right.
Yeah. Water usage, that's on you.
right.
Right.
All right,
But
let's
you understand
move
what I'm
along
saying,
here.
though.
We're stuck
No,
in
that's
the mud here.
No, that's actually an excellent point. You got people paying for that infrastructure
They don't even have it hooked up.
that won't get a drop out of it.
No,
But they had that choice. That was their choice.
they didn't have a choice.
Just like I had a choice.
Right.
There's people paying half units.
Yeah, Water District 12 is paying half units.
Yes.
No other district. That's a whole nother ball of wax. Don't start me on that.
Well, why do you think it's affordable?
So
Your payment's a whole lot less than the whole town one.
There's
Well,
only
what
like
would you
6
guys-
half units.
All right.
Can you
Well, what would
imagine
you
how
guys-
many
I think
other?
there's more than that.
Well, one of you guys contact, Clark Patterson or find out their email situation?
For how they're contacting.
I mean, they're billing us for contacting them. They should have when they've done it and what the response was and everything.
Surgery
They just
construction.
told us they're getting no response.
Okay. But I'd like to know how often they check.
It's been continuously.
It's not said continuously.
They want to
Because I
get
know
this
someone
done.
works for their company and I know the contractor.
Well, then why don't you investigate it then?
We had
I have.
resolution 13 first.
Then take care of it then.
But I'm not sitting up there, that's your job.
Yeah, we're not
Yeah,
getting
we
$500
elected you to do it.
$400 a
Well,
month.
we elected you to do it.
All right.
Wrong answer.
But I'm sorry I started an argument, I'm sorry, but don't be sorry.
No,
But
there's things that can't be changed.
I understand that.
We
Yeah, I-
have a financial payment system that's been set up based on the
Right.
loans being paid off, and it's time for you guys to take over.
All right, let's move along here. We're kind of stuck in the mud here. Resolution 13, resolution to approve Water District 12 information, resolution that the town board and the town of Stafford will accept and approve the information in the Form E and all the paperwork presented at this meeting. who would like to make that motion?
Specifically which paperwork?
Well,
Was it the earlier presentation, or is it the one?
That paperwork right there.
So this is what payment in, of how many?
well, this application were 4. But,
Yeah. So it's not, this isn't the final payment, and there's still a retainage for, comes out of the grant. Yes. All right, from what I read of this, it's not the last payment, it's in an order of payments. And there is still a retainer for work completed. So I make a motion that we accept.
Second.
Councilman Panic, second by Councilman Pacer to approve Resolution 13. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Future of town-wide water district, we beat that to death. I think enough has been said about that tonight. This is an ongoing thing. Resolution number 14.
So moved.
Reappointment of Carol Queal to the Board of Assessment Review. Carol has been a member of the Board of Assessment Review, and whereas Carol's term has expired, and whereas Carol has expressed interest in remaining on the Board of Assessment Review, therefore, the town board of the town of Stafford shall appoint Carol Queal to the Board of Assessment Review. Who said that?
So moved.
Pacer?
Yes.
Who else?
Second.
Motion by Councilman Pacer, second by Councilman Deason. Let's see, we'll put that down here. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
This seems resolution,
Auditing and financial services, we have 2 auditing firms, Lumsden, McCormick, and Laurel Landers for audit. A motion to approve them to do the auditing.
Is it a choice, or is it?
No, we have to have both of them, they do separate, different functions, so we need
Alright.
both of them.
Motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Panic, second by Councilman Young to approve the Lumsden, McCormick, and Laurel Landers for audit. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So, they do something like here. So,
This one's a slower.
and these things are like, they're not.
Nothing there.
What are you gonna do now?
we were.
budget transfer.
Did you do Carol Quinn?
Okay, budget transfers. This is just a normal happening from time to time. Some need money and some don't. Well, anyway, you guys know. Shall we approve resolution 15?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Paisley, second by Councilman Panic to approve resolution 15. All in favor, say aye. Opposed?
A lot of sub-account movement here, isn't there? Because I don't recall on the budget us getting down to this level of count numbers.
This is for 2023.
All right. Even then, it looks like they're balancing up the sub-accounts. All right.
Okay.
About item number 13.
They're not here. Our attorneys are handling it.
And they didn't show up tonight, so no action was taken.
Is that what the litigation meeting was about? Solar?
Executive sessions.
Executive session, yeah. We know it's private, but if it involves town money, and we're gonna be sued, or we're gonna have to pay extra money in lawyers' fees, I think we at least have a right to know what subject it's on.
All right.
Solar, the county,
We
the
wouldn't
corner
be
building.
speaking about the lawyers unless it was about litigation. So if you're asking us, what did we talk about?
No, just the subject, was it solar, was it
That is
Queal?
asking what we are
Oh,
talking about.
Right.
Those
Let me
litigation.
borrow your loader for a couple hours, I'll fix
Can I
that
try
problem.
calling CSX and see where I go?
Sure.
Do you want me to go, do I get approval? Can I go up and find out?
About,
CSX, what their holdup is.
Oh, sure.
Steve, what do you got here?
I got people. I got people.
Ron?
oh, I've got something.
All right.
While I'm getting it out, why don't you hit the other guys now? I'll go first.
Oh, I have a few things. I have, is it okay if I put an ad in Penny Saver for a dog numerator? If we even do it at all this year, what do you guys?
You only got through last year, didn't you?
Well, the person I hired wasn't able to get through, she only did a few houses. Unfortunately, her life situation didn't
You
work.
want a motion on this?
No, what,
No.
do you want a motion, or is it okay I put an ad
You're
on?
working on it.
You're working on it? Oh, I'm scraping the whip.
Yeah, we're going to advertise anyway.
You're working on it, good.
Okay, well, I can't spend money without permission. Okay.
It was in the budget, it was on the budget thing.
Also, tax information. Taxes are going extremely well. I am so excited. Jane and I have got such a system down. We have had, out of our $2,791,264.59 that we have to collect, we have collected, as of today, $2,421,631.76.
Good job.
So, we only need, which we never collect the whole amount, we always send some back to the county. But out of that 2 million plus, only $369,632.83 is outstanding. I am so excited.
But that's both county collections and ours together.
Yes.
Right.
Well, there's some school tax in there too.
No,
No?
no school, just county and town.
Anything else?
You gonna ask me something? I'm
I'm good.
You're good?
just excited. 'Cause we can-
Okay.
All right, last month's meeting, we covered where Stafford ranked in property taxes. And sometimes that doesn't really tell you the whole story, so I said I'll try to do some more research and see what I could get on how much do we ask from the taxpayers in comparison to other towns. So we were the fourth lowest taxing entity in town entity in Genesee County. I was able to find that when the county passes their tax levy, they also do a resolution where they pass all the town ones that are up for collection. So then we can, just from that, we can very easily compare ourselves to the other towns. There is one town that collects less from their taxpayers than us, and that's Darien. And they're at $227,495 is what they collect in taxes. Stafford has 300,000. So that's what I consider 100%. Alabama is next at 317,125. Don't forget, all of these are combined general fund, highway fund, doesn't include fire departments. Next is Pavilion at 404,775, or they're collecting 135% of what Stafford collects. Pembroke is next at 410,000, or 136%. Leroy is next at 438,693, or 146%. Bethany is at 469,761, 156% of what we collect. Byron is at 513,485, 171% of what we collect. Elba is at 578,249, 193% of what we collect. Alexander is at 604,335, or 201% of what we collect. Bergen is at 707,173, 236% of what we collect. Oakfield is 842,175, or 281% of what we collect. Batavia, which the number didn't surprise me because of their size, they're at 1,225,300, or 408% of what we collect. We always look at Bethany and Byron, and they're at 156 and 171%. So,
how do we rate as far as assessed values?
What's that?
How do we rate as far as assessed values?
That's the next thing I'm looking at.
Okay.
But this is just pure how much they're asking for, because that's where the rate, if you have higher assessed values, it drives the rate down, because lo and behold, what three towns are lower than us, Darien, Pembroke, Leroy, are all more developed than we are.
Now, that doesn't include the villages, right? That's just the towns.
Doesn't include the villages, so that's the whole thing. If you're living in Oakfield,
village.
That doesn't include Oakfield Village.
Well, like Bethany, what do they do with all that money up there? They don't have everything we got.
All right, I'm just putting the numbers out there. Yeah, I would like to next rank order what the assessed values of them are. So,
okay,
that's all I got.
I don't like paying my town taxes. They're low. I'm happy. What I don't like paying my fireman's taxes that we subsidize.
Yeah, well.
And they're more than my town taxes, and I gotta help the town and the highway and everybody else with that money.
Someday you'll be paying it to the county, Gary.
But even again, they're like the fourth or fifth highest. There are plenty of towns paying.
No, they should start making some money over there somehow. I got an idea for them someday.
Lots of luck. Okay,
I don't,
pay the bills.
Those.
but, yeah,
There's not a financial report this month?
Okay.
We won't give them a couple of months.
What?
Make a motion to pay general fund 14
we're out of here.
in the amount of $7,637.10.
Second.
Second. Third.
Third.
Motion by. Jim. Councilman Kennedy to pay
General 14.
$7,637.10.
Get some more of them green lights out.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody's paying any attention here.
Yep. Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, make a motion to pay capital projects number 14 in the amount of $32,870.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Deason, second by Councilman Pacer to pay capital projects 14 in the amount of $32,870. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
So that took care of them. Now I make a motion to pay general fund number 2 in the amount of $43,118.63.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Deason, second by Councilman Pacer, pay general fund 2 for $43,118.63. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Make a motion to pay highway number 2 in the amount of $29,129.34.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Deason, second by Councilman Pacer, pay highway abstract 2 for $29,129.34. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Make a motion to pay water fund number 2 of $89,353.02.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Deason, second by Councilman Pacer to pay water abstract 2 in the amount of $89,353.02. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Make a motion to pay capital projects number 2 of $163,152.60.
Motion by Councilman Deason, seconded by.
Second.
Councilman Young. Pay capital projects 2 in the amount of $163,152.60. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Make a motion to pay Fire Protection District 1, number 2, for $406,000.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Deason, second by Councilman Pacer to pay fire
Protection.
in the amount of $406,000. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Carried.
That's it.
That's it.
Is that it, guys?
Motion to adjourn. at 10:02.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Councilman Penn, second by Councilman Young.